I have been about 21 years in this space in people, potential, growth, and development. In my most recent assignment, now I'm the Chief People Officer with Sugar Cosmetics, and very excited about uh, what holds for the people function in the most evolved form today. And in a certain way, I also believe that this is possibly the best time to be in the people function. Well, 21 years experience, started as an entrepreneur, burned some money. Uh, so I started my startup experience, so to say, very early in my life. And then joined a company called MHR, was there for about 3 years till we got acquired by Randstad. So the cumulative experience in that organization was about 6 years. Then joined Cerebris, worked largely on change transformation assignments. And from there, ILNFS for 5 years as a group head talent MOD, working on creating one talent philosophy across the group. Then joined Nika, and there I was the head of HR with the full responsibility of scaling the organization. So I was part of the leadership team that actually was in midst of that whole growth story of Nika that we know today. Then for a little bit, I was with a medtech organization. And then I was on my own for about good 9 months or so, and now with Sugar. What do I do in my spare time? I love outdoors, so I play a lot of outdoor sports. The first given opportunity, I'll go run. I'll, play a sport. Movies, I do catch up whenever time permits. And trekking is something that, I've kind of gained a lot of liking for over a period of time. So I think I do high altitude trekking whenever opportunity provides. I'll be happy as a head of HR to see my people being with the organization 24 hours. My answer is no. No, I don't think that's ideal. I don't think that humans have a unidimensional aspect to them. We are far more diverse, far more colorful, far more complex than what we have so far understood about humans. So I don't think that I would like to bracket myself as a person who will be happy to see people only focused on work. I think if you go out, you bring a lot more to work. That's the way I see it, right? So that's that. Quiet quitting, I think it's always been there, if you ask me. And these are terms that get coined, and it just kind of rises up the sort of social and media blitz and all of that. But in essence, it says that somebody is disengaged and just doing enough to stay afloat, right? And I think that was always there, and we see this. It's not a new phenomenon. It was always there in people who felt disengaged, and it's not as simplistic as you might read out there. And I'll give you some shades on that one. That if you look at quiet quitting, and if you look at it from the exit standpoint, and we talk about great resignation, and I see a lot of linkage over there. Probably quiet quitting is probably the first phase of quitting, right? Before somebody really makes up his or her mind to move out of an organization. It's about this resentment and somebody just pulling himself or herself back and say that that's all I'll do. That's about it. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is also to say that there could be a plethora of people in your organization, right? And quiet quitting may not necessarily apply to everybody, because performance standards differ, capabilities differ. And what we might think as a quiet quitting is actually somebody making a lot of effort and still managing to deliver that. So I think sometimes it gets stated overtly and way above the level where it is actually persisting in an organization. So we have to be calibrating as to what sort of talent is demonstrating that behavior. If it's a high quality talent, high performing talent that's actually pulling itself back, then yes. But if it's a talent that has not really got its groove in and still trying to find a way, I think it's par course. So that's the second piece. The third is that it's not, an event. I feel everybody goes through quiet quitting some point in their lives, and it could be, like a cycle. There could be phases in your career in the same organization where you could have experienced quiet quitting, and then you go back and recalibrate, and it could be sometimes just because something you yourself are not really coming to terms with. So I think it's a little complex than the way it is being put out. But yes, the fact is that I think we as organizations will need to do extremely well to be aware of the symptoms of this, to be having our ears to the ground, to know exactly when this is happening and act on it swiftly to prevent it from festering any further. So I think we are in an environment where this wheel is constantly churning, and the environment around this wheel is also evolving. I don't remember of any phase in human history before this where the business landscape was evolving so quickly, and it's only going to gain more and more momentum as you go forward. So what's happening? I mean, imagine this as a concentric circle. An organization is the circle inside, and you see that an individual who's working in a role has demands on that role made, which in turn is a demand on that individual to demonstrate a certain skill. Now that person has an option to either grow vertically or horizontally, and then grow vertically. It's a choice that an individual makes. But the moment you make that choice, you have no other option but to look at skill, because whether you want to grow vertically or you want to grow horizontally, there are different sets of skills required, right? Add to that, the complexity is that the external forces are going to put on that role to make it relevant to the market. So one is trying to calibrate your skill capability within the organization, and then you're also trying to keep it attuned with the market. Now, so these are the dual forces, the way I see it, are acting on the talent skill demand today. Organizations will have to do exceedingly well to be able to be real time with the kind of skills required from the market. And it's a tough job. Let's understand that, right? Or just about the time when you may have frozen upon your skill matrix, there comes something else which kind of pushes the realms of the existing skill matrix and demands new set of skills from you. So I think constant learning, continuous learning is possibly the only solution to this. We just have to be in this mindset that everybody in the organization will have to be constantly evolving, constantly learning, constantly developing, because the pace is going to outpace the individuals, which the market is going to set upon you. So if somebody was in the fear of being outpaced by the skills from the market in say about 2 years time earlier, it may be lesser than 6 months now. Yeah. So we are in a very, very exciting times, but at the same time very choppy times. And we just have to be accepting of this fact that these changes are going to be only getting incrementally faster and more complex. This is exactly the question that a lot of us are really grappling with today. If you look at an organization's relevance in the market, is basically the sum total of the relevance of all the skills that the employees possess. So organization has to see themselves as representation of its people, right? And if you have aspirations to be the top player in a certain market, you have to really be ahead of the competition to figure out as to what sort of skills are going to be relevant, say 5 years hence or 3 years hence. You should have that vision to figure out as to what's the change that's likely to hit you, and prepare for it within your organization and build that capability ahead of time. You will remember some years back, when the whole computerization wave hit the world, there were some companies who were better prepared compared to the others, and they kind of rather came off it unscathed. The next such black swan event was the COVID, and COVID demanded serious amounts of frugality to be able to tide over the sudden cash crunch. And organizations that demonstrated frugality as a way of life through the good periods were able to kind of come out rather unscathed. So I think these are the kind of black swan events which a lot of people may not necessarily anticipate. But I think organizations, when you do visioning, mission, vision exercise, strategy exercise, I think skill visioning is also important. What sort of skills are going to be demanded in the future? And when you look at upskilling typically is always seen as vertical growth of an individual. And reskilling is typically somebody going horizontal and then trying to build a skill on that side. But if you look at growth of individuals in the organization, is not always upskilling alone. You normally move zigzag, right? So it's not just the linear growth. And I would say that upskilling is in a way also reskilling, because you will have to build an allied skill to move and acquire the skill sets which are in the role above you. And for that, you will need to be open to be learning constantly. And I just go back to my earlier point where I said that, the learning culture, I think it is a default set now. It's a default set. And it's upon people like us who will need to kind of create that as an institutionalized process in the organization, to tell people that continuous learning is going to be recognized and rewarded, because that is becoming a business critical capability that we need to build in us to be able to wade through these times, to survive, and eventually be able to trump right at the top and say that we've done well for ourselves. And as we know, it's not an event. It's the summit always keeps growing in front of you, so you keep moving from one mountain to the other. So I think we will do well to just make this as a core process of any organization. And some of the organizations that you see in the market are the ones that have been successful, are the ones that have actually created this successfully. Yeah. I think the fact that they hold a C-suite position means that they have done well for themselves, right? They've earned that spot. Nobody's given them as a benevolence. So they put in the hard yards. They probably put in the hard yards more than the men compatriots of theirs, and earned that position for themselves. And when you've earned a position, the confidence is set in. I'm expecting that to be there. There could be reasons why they probably are not okay to speak about this subject, and there could be multiple reasons. I wouldn't really want to guess on that, but I can tell you from my experience, some of the best leaders that I have worked with have been women leaders. They just have this natural edge, being very perceptive, being very foresighted, being very articulate, deep empathy, strong emotional resilience. I think these are capabilities that are very innate to them, and they bring those capabilities to the fore. And I think Indian industry, Indian business houses will do a disservice to themselves if we do not pull more women into leadership positions. I mean, look at what ICICI Bank has done under Mr. K.V. Kamath, right? I think it's been phenomenal work that we've seen here. And each of them have done well for themselves wherever they've gone. I interact with a lot of my CHRO colleagues, women, and I found them exceptionally confident and exceptionally capable. So no doubt about that. Coming to the problem of why less women, I think it's extremely alarming trend that we're experiencing right now from 2010 to now, from 26% contribution to the workforce to 19%, and then now to 9%. I think it's scary, to put it mildly, in multiple ways. If you look at from macroeconomic standpoint, if we are able to bring back the women and increase their contribution by 50%, we'll have 1/3 of our GDP contributed to them. That's huge. Today, the 5th largest economy in the world should be really sitting and making note of this. The second point is that today, India is going to be starting to age by 2050. And if we don't pull in more women into our workforce, we will soon start having an issue about less workforce availability and aging population, which is not ideal, given that we should have that advantage for the at least another 60-70 years. And that will easily taper out if we don't add more women. The third is that I think we just need a balanced workplace. We just need a balanced workplace. And it makes a huge difference. I mean, in a discussion room, if you look at a woman and a man, I think they just bring very different perspectives. And we talk about diversity, inclusion, and all that. This is what we are talking about. That I get as many diverse people on the table and have them thrash it out in openness and fairness and with maturity. So I think from macro standpoint, this is not, I would say, a good to do thing. I think it's a must for us, for India as an economy. Now, let's look at the problems that we are facing. I mean, COVID has been one of the worst phases in women employment in India. I mean, suddenly in a matter of a year and a half, your 19% of contribution went to 9%. So that's like, if you just say 10% drop, but if you look at in real terms, it's 100% dip from 19 to 9. Yeah. So we're talking about like some massive pullouts by women in workforce. That's not good. That's not good at all, because they've created vacant spaces which are going to be difficult. And this goes back to your earlier point about skilling and upskilling, and this is exactly what we are talking about. And if you look at the Indian society, is largely a patriarchal society which does not necessarily promote women education or women employment. And COVID has played true onto that. Women were pulled back into their houses to take care, to be with their families and so on and so forth. Some women who had traveled out for work were pulled back and probably have never got back to workforce ever, right? So these are all problematic situations, and we need to solve for this from thinking level, right? And we have Northeast India, which is a shining star in my mind from women empowerment standpoint, because women there are treated ahead of men from workforce standpoint. They don't have this problem. It's the rest of the India, which is more patriarchal, experiences this issue, and we have the issue of women going out and earning themselves and women wearing pants in the house and so on and so forth. So I think it's a mindset shift, and it's not easy to change mindsets, right? But I hope that we will do a lot as a country through policies and influencing to get more women into workplace, incentivize that. And what can corporate India do? I think corporate India can actually go into hinterlands through their CSR programs and do a lot for women education and bring them back into workforce. I think this has to be a concerted effort. The second is that in our mainstream work, we should really be open to allow women to do what we thought were jobs not meant for them. And I think it's again stemming from the mindset issue about classification of jobs, where we say that, oh, this job is not meant for women and this job is not meant for men. And we have a problem over there, right? Because there seems to be an economies of scale and economies of unit that actually setting in and making those assumptions convenient for the businesses. But if you really question the fundamental principles, they don't hold any ground. So I think it's time for businesses to really question those principles on which they started categorizing the jobs like this. Like having a manufacturing facility without a woman doesn't augur well, right? So what tells us that women cannot operate lathe machines or, run a line or something? We've never really given a strong thought to that. So I think a lot of policy thinking will have to come through. Organizations will have to really question the way they have demarketed the jobs. It really pains me deeply when in job descriptions I hear or I read only female candidates can apply, only male candidates can apply, and I just really wonder what's the thinking behind this. What's the thinking behind this? And this is again a mindset. So it's important that the people who are in position of influence should really question those principles and let the better sense prevail, because we need women in our workforce. We need women in our organizations. We need women to bring balance to the workspaces. We need women to hold key leadership positions. We need women in the boardrooms. I think, yeah, that's the need of the hour for us.